Okay, everyone, today we're going to get into the naming of the skeletal muscles. And when you look at all the number of the muscles and the sort of weird and unfamiliar names that they have, it might be a little daunting. But actually, I'm here to tell you that once you familiarize yourself with the Latin terms that are used to describe these muscles, it actually gets kind of easier. A lot of these muscles were described using Latin terms because they were first sort of discovered during the Greco-Roman era. And so the Greeks and the Romans used Latin terms, and we have just kept these terms over time because they really do make sense and they make them easy to remember where they are. And so, without really going through all of these with you, I would suggest making flashcards of these and also using the mnemonic devices that will help you to remember them. So, for example, when you have something that is a sub, that means that it's under, because submarines move underwater. If it's a ductor, it's something that moves, like a conductor makes a train. And so I'd like you to really, I totally think that memorizing all of these for what they are, what they mean, and the mnemonic devices will make things a lot easier. When you're asked in visible body or on an exam, where is the gluteus maximus, you'll be able to remember that it's the largest muscle in the glutes. And so I think that's really important. Um, Muscles are named to a number of different criteria, but they all describe the muscle in some way. They could be named after its shape, its size, its location of its attachments to the skeletons, how many origins it has, or the action it performs. And we'll talk about some of the terms used for each of them. For example, it could be described using its anatomical location or the relationship it has to a particular bone. So the frontalis muscle is located on the frontal bone of the skull. And sometimes it could be the shapes of the muscles, such as the orbicularis, which reflects the shape, remember orb. For the buttocks, the size of the muscles, like the gluteus maximus for the large, the gluteus medius for the medium, and gluteus minimus for the smallest. Names are also given that indicate length, which is brevis for short, longus for long, and it could also identify the position relative to the midline. Lateralis means the outside, away from the midline, and medialis means towards the midline. The direction of the fascicles and the muscle fibers are also used to describe when it's relative to the midline, such as rectus, which is straight, abdominis, or the oblique at an angle. Some muscle names indicate the number of muscles, and the one we gave before was the quadriceps, which is the group of 4 muscles located in the front of the thigh that helps you extend the knee. Other muscle names can provide information as to how many origins a particular muscle has, such as the biceps brachii, which means 2, right? It has 2, and there's also the triceps, which indicates 3 origins. And then the last thing is the location of the muscle's attachment. When it's based on the number of attachments, the origin is always named first. For example, the sternocleidomastoid muscle is an origin in the sternum, sterno, and the clavicle, clido. And it inserts on the mastoid process of the temporal bone. The last feature by which to name a muscle is its action, basically what it does. And these are even simpler if you remember what the body movements are. So if it's a flexor muscle, that means it does flexation. It decreases the angle at a joint. If it's an extensor, it increases the angle of a joint, does extension. If it's an abductor, remember that means to move your limbs away from the midline. Or an adductor, it moves the bones toward the midline. And so like I said, I think it's important that you start to realize what some of these words mean. And then when you're asked to figure out where a muscle is, you'll start getting a good idea of where to begin your search. And so that's where I'm going to leave that one here. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.